Placing our clips in the timeline is essential, as this is the way in which we can incorporate these clips into our work. There are several ways to accomplish this task. This chapter will take you through the most common ways of placing these clips in the timeline so that your editing can start. Open up the Placing Clips file in your Chapter 4 folder in your Project Files folder. Let's go ahead and re-import some of these files. I'm going to use the media browser. And here I'm going to add that recent directories that I have visited will appear in here, including that P2 media folder that I visited before. This is very convenient because now I don't need to go hunting for it. But if for some reason you don't see the P2 media folder here, don't worry. You can browse to your Project Files folder directly from this panel and get to the P2 media folder that way. I'm going to go ahead and click on the first one, press and hold Shift. Click on the last one, and I'm going to drag all of them to the project panel. I'm also going to create a bin for them. I'm just going to call it P2 Media. And I'm going to drag all of these files inside of that bin. I'll collapse the bin, and I missed one. There you go. Let me go ahead and import some other files. Let's go ahead and import some of the music. And a couple of the stills as well. And I'll just choose 3 of these. And there you go. At this point, I want to add that if by any reason you delete or move any of these files, you're going to see an offline icon next to them. Let me do that with this Chicago photo. I'll right-click it and select Make Offline. And I'll tell it not to delete the files from the disk. Notice how now this icon is different than the others, and up here it's telling me that the file is offline. If you see these, it's because Premiere cannot find the file. All you have to do is right-click, choose Link Media, navigate to where that media is, in this case, this stills folder, select it, and click on Open, and now my file is linked again. At this point, I'd like to add that if you have several files that are offline, when you link one, Premiere actually finds all of the other ones. So it's very convenient. Now let's talk about adding files to the sequence. For that, let me make this a little bit larger. There you go. And I'm going to drag the whole P2 Media folder to the sequence. And there you go. At this point, let me just show you how you can zoom in and out of this sequence. You can press the plus sign that shares the same key as the equal sign, the minus sign, which is right next to it. You can also use the slash key, the one that is right above the enter or return key, and that's a zoom to fit. That one is very convenient. And you can just scrub the timeline like this. The problem with adding clips to the timeline in this fashion is that you have no control over the order in which they go. You really have no control over trimming them before putting them in here. You didn't watch them, etc., etc. So it's really not the most efficient way of adding clips to the timeline. Even if you have one long clip, which many cases that happens, especially if you're capturing from HDV or DV, there are many videographers that choose to capture the whole tape. Even if that is the case, placing that whole clip in the timeline might not be the best idea, because very rarely do we shoot things in the order in which we're going to use them in the timeline. That only happens when you're shooting events, whether it's a wedding or a sporting event or whatever, a conference. In that case, yes, things do go in the timeline, in the sequence, in the order in which you shot them, but pretty much for every other occasion that's not the case. So you actually should rearrange and trim your clips a little bit before placing them in the timeline. That would be the most efficient way. So for this, I'm going to select all these clips and I'm going to delete them.